She stood in front of the judge, hands folded in her lap, eyes red from crying. Not because of the divorce, because 6 days earlier, she had buried her mother. The funeral was small, quiet. Just her and a handful of neighbors who barely knew the woman who had lived on Maple Street for 20 years. Her husband didn't attend. He said he had a meeting. He lied. He was with her. The other woman, the one sitting beside him now in the courtroom, dressed in a cream-colored suit that cost more than 3 months of rent, smiling like she had already won. Michael stood up when his lawyer nodded. He looked at his wife, Claire, and said the words slowly, deliberately, like he wanted her to feel every syllable. Your Honor, I married a woman with nothing. And she's leaving this marriage with exactly what she brought into it. Nothing. The courtroom was silent. Claire didn't move, didn't flinch. Her lawyer touched her arm gently, but she didn't respond. The mistress, Vanessa, leaned back in her chair and crossed her legs. She had one. And she knew it. What no one in that room knew, not even Claire, was that the woman she buried 6 days ago wasn't just her mother. She was one of the wealthiest human beings to ever live. And in 72 hours everything was about to change. Before I continue, welcome to Leora Folktales. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss our upcoming videos. Thank you. Let me take you back. 7 years earlier. Michael was a different man then. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe Claire just couldn't see it yet. They met at a community college where she worked part-time in the library and took night classes in accounting. He was charming. Funny. He had this way of making her feel like she mattered. Like she was more than just the girl who restocked books and made minimum wage. He told her about his dreams. A business. A future. A life where money wouldn't be a problem anymore. She believed him. So when he asked her to marry him in the parking lot of a diner at 2 in the morning, she said yes. They didn't have much. But they had each other. Or so she thought. Claire's mother, Margaret, came to the wedding. She didn't say much. She never did. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes who lived in a modest house on the edge of town. She worked from home doing something with computers. Claire never really understood it. Her mother never talked about work. Never talked about money. Never seemed interested in anything flashy or loud. Michael didn't like her. He thought she was cold. Detached. He complained that she never offered to help them financially even though they were struggling. Claire defended her mother every time, but quietly, she wondered the same thing. Why didn't her mom ever step in? Why did she just watch them suffer? The first 2 years of marriage were hard. Michael's business ideas kept failing. He'd start something, get excited, then lose interest when it didn't take off immediately. Claire picked up the slack. She worked 3 jobs. A morning shift at a grocery store, afternoon hours at the library, and weekend gigs cleaning offices. She came home exhausted, made dinner, and listened to Michael talk about his next big idea. She believed in him. She always believed in him. Her mother called once a week. Always on Sundays. Always at 9 in the morning. The conversations were short. How are you, Claire? I'm fine, Mom. Are you eating enough? Yes, Mom. Okay. I love you. I love you too. That was it. No long talks. No advice. No money. Just quiet love that Claire didn't know how to interpret. Then Michael's company finally took off. A tech startup that got funding from a venture capital firm. Suddenly there was money. Real money. They moved into a bigger house. Bought new cars. Started going to restaurants where you needed reservations weeks in advance. Claire thought they had made it. She thought the struggle was over. But something shifted in Michael. The more money he made, the less he looked at her. The more success he tasted, the more he seemed to resent the years when she was the one holding everything together. Vanessa entered the picture about a year later. She worked in marketing for one of Michael's clients. Tall. Polished. Always dressed like she was about to close a deal worth millions. Michael started working late. Stopped answering Claire's calls. Came home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. Claire knew. But she didn't say anything. She kept hoping it would pass. That he'd remember who she was. What they had been through together. He didn't. Margaret got sick in the fall. It started with a cough that wouldn't go away. Then weight loss. Then doctor visits that led to more doctor visits. Cancer. Stage 4. Claire moved back home to take care of her. Michael didn't visit. Not once. He said he was busy. He said the company needed him. He said a lot of things that sounded like excuses. Claire spent 3 months watching her mother fade. They didn't talk much even then. Margaret wasn't the type to share her feelings or cry or ask why this was happening to her. She just read books, stared out the window, and held Claire's hand when the pain got bad. One night, 2 weeks before she died, Margaret looked at Claire and said something strange. "You're stronger than you think you are. And you're going to need that strength soon." Claire didn't understand. She thought her mother was talking about grief, about life after loss. She wasn't. Margaret passed away on a Tuesday morning. Quietly, peacefully. Claire was holding her hand. The funeral was simple. A few neighbors. A coworker Claire had never met. And that was it. Michael didn't come. He texted. "Sorry, babe. Back-to-back meetings. I'll make it up to you." He didn't. "I need to ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible to someone you loved? Like no matter what you did, no matter how much you gave, it was never enough to make them see you? Drop a comment below and tell me. Because what happened next, what Claire was about to discover, it didn't just change her life. It exposed everyone around her for exactly who they were. The divorce papers arrived 3 days after the funeral. Claire was still sorting through her mother's belongings, trying to figure out what to keep and what to let go, when the courier knocked on the door. She signed for the envelope, opened it and sat down on the floor. Michael wanted out. And he wanted everything. The house, the cars, the savings account, even the furniture they had bought together. His lawyer had drafted everything to make it look like Claire had contributed nothing to the marriage. Like she had been a burden from the start. She didn't fight it. She signed everything. Her lawyer begged her not to. "Claire, you're entitled to half of everything. You supported him when he had nothing. You worked yourself to the bone." But Claire was tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of hoping. Tired of loving someone who didn't love her back. She signed the papers and walked away. The court hearing was brutal. Michael didn't just divorce her. He humiliated her. He stood in front of the judge and talked about how she had been dead weight, how she never contributed, how she came from nothing and was going back to nothing. Vanessa sat beside him, glowing with satisfaction. When the judge finalized the divorce, Vanessa reached over and squeezed Michael's hand. Claire saw it. She didn't react. She just stood up, thanked her lawyer and walked out of the courtroom. She had nowhere to go. The house was Michael's now. Her mother's house was still full of unpacked boxes and memories she wasn't ready to face. So she checked into a motel on the outskirts of town and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she was supposed to do next. That's when her phone rang. The number was international. Switzerland. Claire almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. A man's voice, calm and professional, spoke in a slight accent she couldn't place. "Miss Claire Donovan?" "Yes. My name is Andreas Keller. I represent the law firm of Muller, Steiner and Associates. I'm calling regarding the estate of Margaret Elizabeth Harrington." Claire frowned. "I think you have the wrong person. My mother's name was Margaret Donovan." There was a pause. Then Andreas said, "Your mother used several names throughout her life for privacy and security reasons. Margaret Harrington was her legal name. And Ms. Donovan, I need you to come to Zurich. Immediately. There are matters concerning your inheritance that require your presence." Claire laughed. It was a bitter, exhausted sound. "Inheritance? My mother didn't have anything. She lived in a small house and worked from home. There's no inheritance." Another pause. Longer this time. Then Andreas said something that made Claire's blood run cold. "Ms. Donovan, your mother's estate is valued at approximately $1.7 trillion. And you are the sole beneficiary." Claire didn't believe him. She thought it was a scam. Some cruel joke. But Andreas sent documents. Legal files. Bank statements with numbers that didn't make sense. Offshore accounts. Holdings in companies Claire had heard of but never connected to her mother. Real estate across 4 continents. Ownership stakes in mineral rights, pharmaceutical patents, satellite networks, and private investment funds that moved billions every quarter. Her mother, the quiet woman who lived on Maple Street and never bought anything flashy, had been one of the most powerful financial entities on the planet. And no one knew. Claire flew to Zurich 3 days later. The law firm occupied an entire building in the financial district. Andreas met her in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Alps. He was older, gray-haired, impeccably dressed. He slid a folder across the table. Your mother spent 40 years building this empire. She started with nothing. A brilliant mind. A gift for seeing opportunities no one else could. She made her first million by 25. Her first billion by 32. By the time she was 50, she controlled assets that influenced global markets. Claire's hands were shaking. Why didn't she tell me? Andreas's expression softened. Because she wanted to protect you. Wealth of this magnitude attracts danger. Criminals. Opportunists. People who would use you to get to her. She lived modestly, used aliases, kept everything hidden so you could have a normal life. She also wanted to know that when the time came, you would inherit this not because you expected it, but because you had proven yourself worthy of it. She watched you, Ms. Donovan. She saw how you sacrificed. How you loved without condition. How you stayed kind even when the world was cruel to you. Claire started crying. Not because of the money. Because her mother had been watching. Had been protecting her. Had known everything. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what happens next, the way Claire handles this fortune, the way she faces the people who betrayed her, it's not what you think. And you don't want to miss a single second of it. Claire didn't change overnight. She didn't go on a shopping spree or post photos on social media or call Michael to rub it in his face. She did something much smarter. She stayed invisible. She met with financial advisors, legal teams, and corporate strategists. She learned the businesses her mother had built. The investments. The strategies. She realized her mother hadn't just been wealthy. She had been a genius. And now all of that knowledge, all of that power was hers. Meanwhile, Michael's world was starting to crack. His company, which had been thriving, suddenly hit roadblocks. A major investor pulled out. A key partnership fell through. Banks that had been eager to lend him money stopped returning his calls. He didn't understand what was happening. Neither did Vanessa. But the anxiety was growing. Michael started drinking more. Snapping at employees. Vanessa, who had been so confident, started asking questions. Why is everything falling apart? I thought you had this under control. What Michael didn't know was that several of the investors who had funded his company were subsidiaries of holding companies that Claire now controlled. And she had quietly begun restructuring, pulling strings. Not to destroy him. Not yet. Just to watch him sweat. 6 months after the divorce, Michael's company was on the verge of collapse. He needed an emergency infusion of capital. His CFO found a potential investor. A private equity group based in Geneva. They were willing to meet. Michael was desperate. He flew to Switzerland, rehearsed his pitch, and walked into a glass-walled boardroom with Vanessa by his side, trying to look confident. The doors opened, and Claire walked in. She was different. Not flashy. Not dripping in designer labels. But there was something about her now. A quiet authority. A calm power that filled the room. She wore a tailored navy suit. Her hair was pulled back. No jewelry except a simple watch. She looked at Michael. Then at Vanessa. Neither of them spoke. Andreas stood beside her. Mr. Donovan, Ms. Brennan, allow me to introduce Chairwoman Claire Harrington, majority owner of Harrington Global Holdings and principal decision-maker for this investment group. Michael's face went white. Vanessa looked like she was going to be sick. Claire sat down, folded her hands on the table and said calmly, "You have 5 minutes to present your case." Michael stammered through his pitch. It was incoherent. Desperate. Pathetic. When he finished, Claire was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "I've reviewed your company's financials, your business model, your leadership structure, and I've made a decision." Michael leaned forward, hope flickering in his eyes. Claire smiled. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't smug. It was just, final. I'm going to buy your company. All of it. And you'll be removed as CEO effective immediately. You'll receive a severance package. Standard terms. But your role in this company and any company under my portfolio is over. Michael tried to argue. Tried to beg. But Claire had already stood up. Andreas handed him the contracts. You have 24 hours to sign. If you refuse, we'll move forward with a hostile takeover. Either way, this company is no longer yours. Claire walked out without looking back. Vanessa left Michael 2 weeks later. Turns out, her interest in him had always been tied to his success, his status, his money. When all of that disappeared, so did she. She moved on to another wealthy man, another opportunity. Michael was alone, broke, humiliated. Everything he had taken from Claire, everything he had built on her back was gone. Claire didn't gloat. She didn't post about it. She didn't even tell anyone. She just kept working, building, honoring her mother's legacy. She donated millions to causes her mother had cared about. Education, women's shelters, medical research. She stayed humble, stayed grounded. And one quiet Sunday morning, she drove to the cemetery where her mother was buried. She stood at the grave for a long time. Then she knelt down, touched the headstone, and whispered, "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for protecting me, for teaching me, for believing I was strong enough to carry this." She stayed there until the sun started to set. Then she stood up, wiped her eyes, and walked back to her car. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need validation. She had something far more valuable. She had her mother's love, her mother's legacy, and the knowledge that the people who had underestimated her, who had treated her like she was nothing, had been wrong all along. Some people mistake silence for weakness. They see humility and assume it's poverty. They think that because someone doesn't show off, doesn't brag, doesn't fight back immediately, that they've won. But the most dangerous kind of power is the kind no one sees coming. The kind that's built quietly, carefully. The kind that waits until the perfect moment to reveal itself. Claire didn't need to scream to be heard. She didn't need to destroy Michael to prove her worth. She just needed to exist. To rise. To become exactly what her mother always knew she could be. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. So let me ask you this. If you were in Claire's position, would you have done the same? Would you have stayed quiet, played the long game, and let karma do its work? Or would you have confronted them the moment you found out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know. And if this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that underestimating someone can be the biggest mistake of your life, then share this video. Because someone in your life needs to hear this. Someone needs to remember that silence doesn't mean surrender. Just means you're not done yet.